coming at you live. Today, I'm going to tell you a story of one of my personal homeboys, my homeboy Pelon. And this story, it started in 1981. My homeboy Pelon, we're up in the street, and we're youngsters. He's a little bit older than me. He's like maybe 28. At that time, I was only like 16, 17 years old. I'm hanging around with the older dudes. The Roleños just started. The clica of the Roleños just started. And my homeboy Pelon, he was actually the shot caller of the Roleños. He created the Roleños. Well, one day, we're in a bar, and this fool just gets out, and he got out of prison, and he's trying to pick up on Pelon's hyena. Well, Pelon confronts the homie.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
The bar's called the Luna Azul. Well, Pelon confronts the homies in the bar, and he thinks he's all bad. This is his name, Chito Soto. He's got a la pinta. Back then, get a la pinta. Everybody got to look up to you. You know what I mean? And he was, he just got out. He was he was political. You know what I mean? Well, him and Joe, my homeboy Joe Cruz, they're together. There's another homeboy, older homies. He's politicking too, and he got out. Well, when he tried and pick up on my homegirl pretty. She's real pretty, green eyes, everything, beautiful. You know what I mean? Well, he tried and pick up on her. Pelon, Pelon's kind of big for his age. Pelon confronted him, and this fool tells him, man, get the hell away from your little youngster, you know what I mean? So that happened in the bar, okay? 2 hours later, across the street, there used to be, right there in Brole, there's a store, it's called the Victoria Market. Well, we're in the Victoria Market, and we're right there. It's me, a couple of the homies, you know what I mean? And Pelon's right there. Well, Chito comes up to the bar. He comes across the street. All that street, the main street, is nothing but bars in Brole. It's all bars. La Luna Azul, El Taconazo, El Monte Carlo. It's like bars like in Mexico. So the Victoria Market's across the street, and we went to the store to go buy some piso because at 2 o'clock when they close, where you can't sell no more alcohol. Well, we're trying to beat that before 2 o'clock, because we're going to have the after party at Pelon's house. Everybody used to hang around at my homeboy Pelon's house. Well, anyways, we went over there, and here comes Chito Soto and Joe Cruz. Well, Chito hits up Pelon, and they go one-on-one. They start fighting. Boom, 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 boom. They're going fighting one-on-one. And as they're fighting, another homeboy drives up, and he drives up with his hyena, and he sees my homeboy Pelon fighting, and he runs over there and boom, stabs Chito Soto with an ice pick right in the heart one time. When he stabbed him, he gets up and takes off. Well, Pelon don't realize, because he's so much fighting, he don't realize, he didn't see that dude had an ice pick and he stabbed him. He thought he was just helping him to fight him, and Pelon actually pushed him away, like, get out of here, I got it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't need your help, because Pelon had hands. You know, back then, he had hands. Well, anyways, he falls, and all of a sudden, boom, here comes the cops. Everybody's, Trucha, the placas coming. The placas mean cops, So the cops are coming. Well, Pelon, they get him, and everybody took off running. Boom. Well, long story short, Pelon stays there. They take Pelon, they cuff him up, and they take Terron, another homie of mine named Terron. They take him, too, because he was right there, too. He didn't want to leave Pelon. Pelon and Terron live on the same street over our marketplace, so he didn't want to leave him there by himself. So they take him to the police station. When he's in the police station, he actually thinks, well, they're just in there they're drunk, and they just got in a fight. So the cop comes, and the placca's name was Flores. He's a detective. Well, he tells Pelon, when they got Pelon in the holding tank, they tell me, you better be lucky if he don't die, because if he dies, we'll charge you 187. Pelon said, what do you mean 187? We just got in a fight. And he goes, nah, man, he's got a puncture wound to the heart. And Pelon starts thinking back, because you ever heard Pelon was drunk. So he just starts thinking, and he's like, he remembers one of the homies came to try and help him, but he didn't know that he came in him with the ice pick. Well, long story short, they end up charging Pelon for a murder, right? Okay. They take him from there. He goes to the county jail and everything. Well, Pelon calls and lets us all know, hey, you need to go find this fool. And he tells us the name of this fool. And he tells you need to go find this fool and tell him, hey, check this out. I'm right here in the fucking county, and I didn't do that murder. He did, so he better come and take responsibility for it. Because all I did is get in a fight. Well, this dude tells him, he sends, his homies, sends his lady, Candy, to come visit Pelon. she came and visit Pelon and tell him, look, he said, don't worry about it. The day they're going to select the jury, don't worry about it. He's going to turn himself in and say that he did it. Well, the day that they were going to select the jury, Pelon's waiting in the jury, you know what I mean, in the courtroom, for him to pop up or something right there in court and to say, hey, you know what, I'm the one that did this. He didn't do nothing. So, man, Pelon went through the whole trial. He got convicted. Back then they were giving 15 to life. He got convicted, and he never did the murder. All he did is he did in a fight. Well, anyways, long story short, Pelon ended up he got 15 to life on that murder. Okay, now I'm going to take you to 1985. When I got to Old Folsom, Pelon was right there with me. Pelon's there, and he tells me the story. I said, I was there. And he tripped out because at that time I was a youngster. I was like 16, 17. Well, you were there. I said,
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I seen the whole thing. And he was shocked when I told him. I said, I was there when old boy came and stabbed him with a nice stick. He goes, yeah, that fool never even stepped up to the plate to take that cargo. I'm still here. And what that fool did is he did that, and the day he told me he was supposed to come in and say, hey, you know what, I'm the one that did this murder. Pelon didn't have nothing to do with it. He didn't do that. He ended up taking off and he left Role, ended up going to some other place, I think Verdugo or Ontario. He went to Ontario. Ended up living over in Ontario, never came back to Role. Well, when I got to, we were selling in Old Folsom. I got out, took care of Pelon, you know what I mean, as much as I could. You know how it is. And when I came back to the state, now while I was in the shoe, every time we were in the same shoe, but we could never hook up together in the same cell until we got to Pelican Bay. When we were in Pelican Bay, that's when I told you the story about Tupi. When I moved out of Tupi section, that's who I went with. I went and moved in with my homeboy Pelon. When I moved in with my homeboy Pelon, and he tells you the same thing, 'cause in Old Folsom, he ended up picking up another life sentence. Because in Old Folsom, there was the BGF and the inmate were at war for maybe 8 years, 6 years, somewhere around. Well, one day Pelon goes out there to the yard, and I got a homeboy. His name's Trampa. Well, Trampa, he's a Roleño too, like me. Well, Trampa ends up being the first Roleño from our clica to get into the Mexican mafia. Well, when I got to Old Folsom in 1985, Trampa was a carnal already. Well, back in the days when we were youngsters, Pelon is the one who always used to have Trampa under control, telling him, because Trampa always wanted to go and shoot these dudes, pass by shooting, the otros from GLS or Campo or Chicali 3. He wanted just to shoot, and Pelon was more smarter. Man, we're not just going to shoot anybody, fool, you're crazy. Well, when Trampa got made a carnal, he ended up telling Pelon, now you got to listen to me, fool. Yeah, you run the Roleños. You were the one who used to run all the Roleños, but now you're going to listen to me because yo soy de la M. Role second. Yeah. Well, every time that somebody needed to go to a mission, that's why I'm telling this story. Somebody needed to go on a mission, Trampa would send Pelon. And back then in the 1980s, when somebody from the M sent you on a mission and you refused it or you didn't want to do it, then this is what they told you. They'll tell you like this: hey, it's all right, homies. You know what? Go ahead. You go ahead and do your thing. Don't worry about it. I'll get somebody else. But the next day or in a couple of days, you guarantee your ass you're going to get stabbed. You know what I mean? Because back then they used to run inventory on the tier and check who's the latest dude that did a pegada and who's the ones who haven't did no pegadas, no stabbings. A pegada means stabbing, no stabbings. And the ones that haven't did no stabbings, they would put him on a mission, because back then you weren't on the tier just to be on the tier. You just didn't take up space. You were on the tier because you were a soldier. Well, every time when Trampa got out of oil and
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Well, Pelon would send Trampa would send Pelon on a mission. A story about Pelon Marquez, my homies from Role. Well, the reason I'm telling you is because he picked up my homeboy Pelon Marquez. He picks up another murder in Old Folsom. He picks it one day they're in the yard, and when I got to Old Folsom, he just barely got kicked out of the hole. at that time. Because back then, when you did a stabbing, you go to a hole and you're only in Old Folsom for maybe like 15 to 16 months, and they kick you back out. So you went over there back at one building in Old Folsom, did your shoot term, and they'll shoot you right back out to the yard. Well, when I got to Old Folsom in 1985, Pelon just got kicked out from doing that 15 or 16 months in the hole for that muerte for the black dude, the BGF dude, when the BGF war was happening. Well, Pelon went and Trampa sent Pelon on a mission to go hit this negro, this black dude. Well, he's stabbing him, and the gun tower opens fire. Boom! And back then in the 80s, they had nothing but Vietnam vets. Most of the dudes that were in the towers, and they weren't playing back there in the 80s. They opened fire. They didn't have no block like now, block gun or rubber gun. They straight 9. They were just hitting you. Boom! Well, when they opened fire, he opens fire, and the bullet ricocheted from the ground in the basketball court in front of one building, and it ricocheted the ground, and boom, it hit the ground and jumps up and hits the dude right in the stomach. And the other bullet hit another one and hit him in the side. Well, one of the bullets ended up traveling all the way to his heart, where Pelon stabbed the dude, but he didn't kill the dude. What killed the dude was the actual gunner. But because they got a thing called, when you're in the commission of a crime and you're doing like stabbing or whatever, and somebody gets killed, they're going to charge you, the person who was doing the stabbing. Well, Pelon ends up getting another life sentence of 50. He took a 15 to life, was going to court in Sacramento. That's when I got there, 1985. He's going to court in Sacramento, and he ends up taking another 15 to life. And the reason I'm telling you the story is because when I got there, Pelon just got out. You remember, he just gets kicked out from doing a 16 months. Trampa comes, and we're right there. It's all the homies from the line. He comes, what's up, Conejito, what's up? I give him a hug, and he tells me, hey, Pelon and the homies told you that I'm a carnal. I said, yeah, I already knew you were carnal. I was up there with old man Gato. When you went up there, you hollered up there, but you didn't. He was in the 3rd tier, and we're in the 5th tier. He's talking over the tier. But he never checked and asked, hey, who's your celly? Well, I wasn't celly. Well, anyways, he tells him, he's trying to tell Pelon that I need you to go on a mission.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
We got some business we need to take care of. I want to see if you want to go on a mission. Well, at that time, Pelon was already telling me about Trampa, what he's doing. He's trying to take it out on Pelon for all these years that Pelon used to always be running him when we were in the streets, telling him what to do, because Pelon was the boss of the Roleños. Well, at that time, me and Wino are the ones who told me, hey, Trampa, homies, there's a lot of dudes right here in the yard that haven't even did nothing in this yard, fool. Pelon just got kicked out of the oil from doing 16 months on a pegada, and he's facing another life sentence. You trying to send him on another mission? And Trampa got mad. He said, all I want to know is you don't want to do it, just let me know. And that's when I told him, hey, check this out. Let Pelon kick back. Me and Wino will handle it. So he didn't want to hear that. But when we told him that, he said, all right, you know what I mean? Yeah, you guys can handle it. He goes, okay, we'll handle it. Pelon just got out. You know what I mean? We'll handle the pegada. The next day, when we see Trampa the next day, he says, hey, yeah, that little business music, forget about it. Squash it. We don't need to handle it no more. But he was just trying to send Pelon on a mission because he had a lot of grudge towards him because of the years when we were younger, and Pelon would always take, control Trampa for not just going and shooting people back, just gangbanging, you know what I mean? Because Pelon didn't believe in that, just open fire on a house with people right there partying. He didn't believe in all that. And the reason I tell you this is because the other day I called, and my mother, my family was telling me that Pelon got out. He's out there in the streets, and it gives me great joy because the time when I moved in with Pelon, and I moved in with him in the Bay, that's the first thing he told me. When I moved in, he gives me a hug, and he tells me, did you hear about Trampa? And I said, yeah, I heard about it. He said, is it true or what? And I said, yeah, from what they say, it's true. Well, in Tehachapi, in the cement yards, in Tehachapi, in the shoe, they had a shoe yard over too in Tehachapi, like by Corcoran. Well, they ended up stabbing Trampa, and he messed up. He messed up, and he fucked up in the helmet. Well, they stabbed him, and when they stabbed him, ya estuvo. So when Pelon asking me, I said, yeah, that's what I heard. He says, man, Pelon telling me, I can't wait till I see him, homies. When I see him, I'm going to take him out, fool. Because I'm right here doing this life sentence right now because of him. So when I ever see him, I'm gonna try and take him out. And I said, yeah, well, from out here, you're not gonna see him because they said, I don't know where he's at. He's pieced up. Well, Pelon said, I'm just telling you, homies, when I see him, and I'm like, man, well, he ends up. The other day I call him, they tell me that he made it out there, and he's out there in the street right now, living good. He's a Christian. That really gives me joy that he changed his life. He's over there, following the Lord, taking care of business. And I say this, I'm thinking, man, you know what? If he made it out and he had 2 life sentences, he had an original 1981, a 15 to life, and then he picked up another 15 to life in Old Folsom in 1985, and he made it out. He's out in the streets. I'm like, man, I could make it out. That's why I tell all you people to help me out on my donations to get an attorney, because he had an attorney. He got an attorney, and the attorney spoke for him in board so he can get out. He's out in the street right now. And that's why I ask all you people that hear my show, I talk to people in my show to help them so they'll change their life and won't waste their time in prison, because prison ain't no fun, no place to be at. Like I tell you, anything you can donate to my Cash App. My Cash App is Free Conejo. FREEJONEJO. Free Conejo, and it's in the beginning of the Cash App, it's just a dollar sign. Anything you can donate to me so I can hire an attorney, so when I go to board, I get kicked out. I didn't kill nobody. When I picked up this kid, I didn't kill nobody. I just got struck out because of my priors from the 1980s. They struck me out, and I can't believe it, because my case right now, if a person got arrested for my case, he would come in at the most he's looking at is 9 years in prison. But because I had strikes, they struck me out for carjacking. They struck me out. And my case wasn't even a carjacking. I tell you this, it ain't even a carjacking because the car was taken from somebody, they said it was carjacking. But that's only if a person came in with no priors. He was only facing 9 years, because I had priors from the 1980s that gave me life in prison, 25 years to life. But the reason I'm telling the story about my homeboy Pelon is because of that, because it shocked me. I swear, the other day I called him and they were telling me, hey, Pelon's out here in the street. He just got out. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it, because I thought, you got double lives. You picked up a life sentence in the street, and then you pick up another life sentence in prison. I didn't think they would let you out. But he was a Christian for a lot of years in prison too, and that's the reason I go to church and I study the Bible every day, and I try and change my old ways to change my life so I can get that action to get on the street one day. That's me. That's what I'm trying to do. And that's my whole goal. And that's one of the reasons I share my stories with you, because I want to be like this. When I go to board and they see that this man, Mr. Conejo, has been speaking on stories from the past in prison to try and help people, youngsters out in the street, at-risk kids or whatever, wives, mothers, fathers, dads, or whatever, to change their ways for the better. If I can plant that seed in your head to change your ways for the better, then I'm hoping that they see that in board and they say, you know what, this man's ready to go home. Let's give this man a date. That's what I want. But I also do it to try and help people, because I look at it like this. I don't want to waste my time in prison just not doing nothing, not helping nobody. Sometimes I be here on the phone and I'm telling these stories, and some of these guys here hear me, because there's 4 phones right here next to each other, and they see me and they laugh at me, or they think, sometimes they think, man, that dude's crazy. But I don't care what they think. I do it because I'm trying to help people in the streets to change their ways, because you're just one decision away from a bad decision to spend the rest of your life in prison or to lose your life. And I say that now because of the way it is out in the street with that drug fentanyl. I see guys in there, they take them all the time. Guys OD and they take them. As you tell a cop, hey, what happened to that dude? Man, he's dead. He didn't make it. I said, you serious? He goes, yeah, he died. He didn't make it, man. They took him to the hospital. By the time he went, he said he was dead. He couldn't make it. They hit him with that Narcan, but he didn't come back. And I'm like, man, that's homeboy I just was talking to you the other day in the yard. And I was like, man, I kept telling him, leave that shit alone, bro. You're a youngster. You're only 23 years old, and you're messing with him. And that's the first thing they tell me. Hey, bro, I'm never going to get out, bro. I got 80-something years. AOG, I'm never going to get out. I said, yeah, but you think like that, then you're never going to get out. But believe me, bro, they're changing laws, bro. Especially you're what's called YOP. YOP is inmates that got action. They gotta. When you picked up your case, at 17, 18 years old. So you're what's considered YOP. A YOP inmate is the inmate that they get. When you go to board, the board has to really take under consideration that your mind was not fully developed when you did the crime, you did the murder. And if your mind, if they can't come to a conclusion that your mind was not fully developed, there's a new law that they got to cut you loose. I try and talk to these youngsters because a lot of these youngsters give up and they start shooting up dope right here around this yard right here. And all it is one shot away. You get one shot of that dope and you get a bad. It's not a bad. It's not a bad batch. I call it bad batch because it's a batch of pure fentanyl. You get a bad batch of that where you do like thinking it's a $20 bag and you've been doing a 20 every day, and you do a 20 and that little bag got more fentanyl than the last couple of bags you did, and you're gone. You're dead. If they don't come and hit you with that Narcan within seconds or minutes, you're gonna die. And that's what I tell these people. There's a dude here the other day, he was gone. I was like, man, I couldn't believe it. And the reason I say these stories is it touches my heart because it's just like me and you. You guys hear my stories. I don't meet you in person, but there's people here that I meet in person. I know personally. And then I hear what happened. What happened? Oh, homeboy OD'd over in Fort Block. I said, who was it? Oh, it was Termite. I was like, Termite from, you serious? He's like, yeah, what happened? He's dead. Fool, he's gone. He's dead. I'm like, what? I just talked to him the other day. That's when I trip out. And the street gets worse. And the street gets more worse because people have access to that so much in the streets. And now all the cartels in Mexico are putting that fentanyl in everything. And it's not, I tell this to people hearing this, it's not just for people thinking, oh, my son don't do no heroin, my son don't do no fentanyl. Believe me, your daughter or your son might be doing some kind of crystal, some kind of LSD or some mescaline, and they're lacing that with fentanyl in it. And there's people dying, little kids in high school, little kids in junior high school. Look at the news. People wake up. So you need to talk to your kids and your daughters about this. This is why I share this with you. Because I'm an ex-dope fiend. I say ex-dope fiend because I don't use no more dope. I don't use nothing at all no more. But I used to use a lot. I used to use since I was...
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Since I was 12 years old, I used to use dope. And I stopped in here with this life since, opened my eyes. Tony's going to hang up.